couple of years ago, I found myself home alone. Though I was still living with my family, they were on vacation, granting me the rare opportunity to have the house all to myself. Having worked long hours that week, my day off finally arrived. With the idea to catch up with some friends over a few cold ones, we spent the evening together, and the gathering concluded around 11 p.m. As everyone headed home, I secured my doors, made my way upstairs to my room, and promptly fell into a deep slumber. That was until I was jolted awake by the insistent ding-dong of my doorbell, around 4 a.m. if memory serves me right. Needless to say, I was still feeling the effects of the night's revelry. For a few moments, I found myself questioning reality. Unsure if the doorbell had rung or if it was a figment of my imagination, I opted to wait. The sound persisted, confirming its existence. Groggily, I rose from my bed, made my way to the hallway, and shouted, "I'll be right there." As I descended the stairs, a wave of panic began to set in. What if one of my friends had encountered an accident or failed to make it home safely? Despite not being as intoxicated as I was when they left, uncertainties lingered. Perhaps one of them had returned for something they forgot. Approaching the door, my decision to open it seemed hasty. To my surprise, or perhaps dismay, it was my ex. A quick recap, our breakup had been far from amicable. After dating for years, she cheated, leaving me heartbroken. We went through a cycle of back and forths, and it took a solid year and a half for me to move on, achieved mainly by blocking her number, all social media, and even email. Yes, she attempted to contact me through email as well. To put it mildly, she embodied the crazy ex stereotype. It had only been about 3 months since I cut off all communication with her, so her unexpected presence left me utterly bewildered when I opened the door. In a hesitant and shy manner, I greeted her with a simple, hi. Perplexed, I questioned, "What are you doing here, Ginny?" She replied, "I wanted to see you and talk a little bit." Bewildered, I pointed out the late hour, to which she responded, "I know it's late, but I'm on my way to school, and I wanted to stop by since it's on the way." "I figured you'd be home alone." This revelation unsettled me. How could she know that? My family wasn't in contact, and I had them blocked on social media. Confused, I inquired, how did you know that?" She simply said, "Oh, I just knew." We hit a momentary pause, and she asked if she could come inside to talk. Despite reservations, I foolishly agreed. Once inside, she interacted with my dogs before we settled in the living room. The conversation initially revolved around how well both of us were doing in life. As expected, she eventually pleaded for us to get back together. Firmly, I declined, leading to tears from both of us. In an unexpected turn, we ended up in my room, and the predictable unfolded. Post the regrettable encounter, guilt washed over me. I used the excuse of an early workday to urge her to leave. However, she insisted on staying, and our disagreement escalated into her accusing me of using her. I responded with unkind words and finally kicked her out. I assumed that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Approximately 20 minutes later, as I returned to my room, pounding on my door interrupted my thoughts. Without surprise, it was my ex. She entered my house without permission, appearing flustered and angry. Despite the familiarity, something felt off. One of my dogs, usually fond of her, began growling, a behavior out of the ordinary. While keeping my composure, I asked her what she wanted and urged her to leave. She stared at me with intense eyes and uttered in a shaky voice, "Why do you always do this?" Moving closer, she had her right hand free, but the other was concealed in her hoodie pocket. Uncertain but alarmed, I suspected she was gripping something. Fearing the worst, I imagined a scenario where I'd be stabbed to death by my unpredictable ex, unnoticed until my family returned. Almost on cue, my second dog, Ash, started barking wildly, an unusual behavior for her. Combined with the unsettling feeling from my ex, I grew uneasy. I expressed regret over our previous actions and insisted she leave, feeling a surge of fear that lingered even after she departed. This totally lit the fuse. She went totally ballistic, I'm talking spitting in my face and strained red eyes while yelling at me. To be honest, I can't really remember what she had yelled about, but it probably wasn't good. The entire time, and she never once took her hand out of her pocket. She did finally calm down, though, and she pretty much just stood there inches away from my face, breathing really heavily, and my dog still barking at her the entire time. The look on her face that she had is the one that you can tell someone wants to do or say something, but they're just holding back from doing what they really want to do by like a threat of mental power or something. Personally, I really didn't want to find out what was in her pocket or what she wanted to do to me. So really annoyed and very much worried after this verbal onslaught, I just simply told her, "Get the hell out of my house or I'm calling the cops," very angrily. She then paused and then she said, "You're gonna regret this," and then finally, she left. I locked my door after that, went straight to my room, and then looked out my window for the next few hours. Thankfully, she didn't come back. Since that day, I haven't seen or talked to my ex. I'm not really sure if I was just being paranoid or if I really was about to regret letting her inside. Hopefully, I won't ever have to see her again. I would like to make something abundantly clear. In the beginning of this, I was very naive in my youth, again, very naive. While my ex was very emotionally, sexually, and mentally abusive, he was smart enough never to lay a hand on me physically. He used gaslighting, manipulation, and carefully hidden sadism to control me for 8 years. I always forgave him for every slight against me, every instance of cruelty, every mental assault, and every sexual attack. I always forgave him because I thought he loved me and that I was his property. We'd been together for a really long time, and I wore his promise ring. In my mind, I was dealing with a lot of actions that would eventually go away with age. I was 17 years old when I finally got the courage to leave him. Since then, no, he's left me messages on my Facebook, my phone, my email, and he's even called me from texting apps as well. He always leaves the same message every month, like clockwork, same time, same day, and same message. He's done this for 6 years, and I couldn't do anything about it. He wasn't breaking any laws, so I couldn't really report him, and no one really cared about it anyway. So, I blocked each account and just continued on with my life. But then, about 2 months ago, the messages seemed to completely stop, and I think I know why. I had gotten engaged to another man the same day that he messaged me for the last time. I decided to post about it on Facebook, and then, magically, out of nowhere, the messages just stopped. I'm guessing he stopped because I'm going to marry someone else, and I'm no longer his property, at least in his mind. This is the only thing that makes sense to me, that he believes I belong to someone else now and not him. But I have a feeling I haven't seen the last of him, but I really hope that's not the case. This isn't so much one encounter, but a terrifying experience that I've never shared with anyone except the police. Recently, I've been reflecting on it, realizing how deeply it affected me. Here's the story. I met a guy at a bar one night, and we hit it off. We partied all night and eventually ended up back at my apartment. Instead of staying at the hostel he was using, he started living with me. We connected instantly, and I enjoyed having him around. We dated for about 3 months before the first night he attacked me. It happened on the night of my 30th birthday. We celebrated, had a great time, and eventually passed out around 3 a.m. He had previously disclosed that he suffered from PTSD and night terrors, often waking up in a panic. In the midst of a deep sleep, I suddenly awoke to 5 swift blows to my head and face. Confused and disoriented, I tried to shield myself, realizing my arms were pinned at my sides. He was sitting on my chest, legs on my arms, strangling me. Before comprehending my surroundings, I felt my life fading and going black as he tightened his grip on my neck. When he released his grip, the blood eventually surged back to my brain, and I witnessed him walking towards the bathroom. Seizing the moment, I hastily gathered my dogs and fled to my car, driving away. He must have fallen back into a stupor. Hours later, he called me, bewildered by my sudden disappearance. I recounted the horrifying incident, and he swore he didn't intend to harm me. He promised to seek help, and in a moment of vulnerability, I agreed to return with the condition that any further scare would mean his immediate departure. Exactly 1 week later, as I slept, I woke to find him on top of me, motionless. Slowly pushing him off, I pretended to prepare for work. Out of nowhere, he sprang up and sucker punched me in the mouth. I tumbled onto the bed, and he once again attempted to strangle me. This time, I feigned unconsciousness. Once he believed I had passed out, he headed to the kitchen. Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed my dogs and raced to the car. I locked myself in, and this time, he chased after me. It became evident that this wasn't a PTSD episode or sleepwalking episode, it was the behavior of a psychopath. He was awake and coherent, threatening to burn down my house if I didn't come out, attempting to break my car windows. With the doors secured, I dialed the police. He retreated inside, and when the cops arrived, I warned them of his instability. As they entered, he calmly awaited them, offering no resistance, fully aware of his actions. It wasn't until during the trial I found out that there was a knife in my bed when he let go of me and went to the kitchen. Thinking I was passed out, he went to get a butcher's knife and left it on the bed when he chased me out. No one can prove what he was planning, but I'm convinced he was going to stab me to death. He wasn't charged with anything in the end because the DA pulled some fancy lawyer maneuvers and tricked him into walking right into the arms of EXES. As soon as he left the courthouse, I have to say that was satisfying to watch. He was deported and banned from the country. He still tries to contact me on social media by making new accounts to try to get me to help with his appeal to be allowed back. Nope. He still claims he wasn't awake for any of this. I don't know what I believe, but I know I feel a hell of a lot safer with him on the other side of the globe. I've been having a hard time sleeping since then. I kind of brushed everything off and carried on with my life as if none of this ever happened. Thinking about it recently, I realized being attacked in your sleep and coming that close to possibly being a murder victim might cause some lasting psychological damage. I am considering seeking help. I think sharing the story for once might be a healthy first step. My husband had previously dated a beauty queen title holder, and their breakup occurred long before we crossed paths. However, I became his first serious girlfriend post their split, and this revelation triggered a nightmarish period in our lives. The ex, beautiful yet profoundly unstable, seemed convinced he would return to her. As our relationship progressed, the relentless phone calls began. She would incessantly call at all hours, compelling my husband to switch off his phone. The situation escalated when I started experiencing flat tires and noticed random dents on my car. While there was no concrete proof linking these incidents to her, the timing seemed remarkably coincidental. Her tactics evolved into calls where she threatened my husband, asserting that if he didn't provide her with money, she'd involve the police, accusing him of abuse. My husband, concerned about potential damage to his reputation, faced a challenging situation. One night, at a party, she ambushed me as I exited the bathroom. In a slurred voice with a heavy accent, she menacingly uttered, "So, where's your man at? You should keep an eye on your man." The intimidation was palpable, given her towering height of over 6 feet, especially considering I stand at a mere 5'5", and she wore heels, making her an imposing figure at around 6'5". I pretty much just ignored her at this point and walked away, but then she found me. Not really saying anything, she just kept up the pace and walked beside me, sort of bending forward to be more on eye level with me, looking straight at me with really crazy eyes, but walking and grinning really creepily. After that happened, We pretty much stopped going to any kind of events if we had any inkling that she would be there. However, we did attend a funeral for a mutual friend of ours. During the reception, I was talking to a couple that I knew, and she just walked up right beside me and stood with us. She pretty much just stood there as if part of the conversation, not talking, just standing there. And was to our intimate group of 3, she was completely nuts. I didn't want to cause a scene at a funeral, so I walked back to my husband, who had just been talking to the man's widow. That was the final straw. We got a lawyer who sent her a cease and desist. It didn't even faze her. She would then call my husband from private numbers and say, "Hi, it's me," in a sing-song voice like nothing even happened. 3 cease and desist letters later, and she was still calling. We were eventually finally able to get a restraining order against her. I really used to be so intimidated by her. She was tall, blonde, and pretty statuesque, the epitome of a beauty queen. However, as I got to realize who she truly was, I began to realize that she was the ugliest person I had ever met despite her outside appearance. Whenever I see a picture of her, all I see are her mean, cold eyes. I don't see any beauty in her whatsoever. I used to think that beauty pageants were so much more than skin deep, that the contestants were judged for more than just their looks. However, in this case, I was so wrong. I also found out that we were apparently not the only ones who had to file a restraining order against her. We haven't seen her in years since all this happened, although we still, to this day, continuously get these fake Instagram follow requests that we know are her. I know this because she's actually dumb enough to always have herself as a follower or her brother, or she'll follow random people in her lives, like my husband's colleagues or my mom, which is absolutely insane to me. I just don't know why she won't let go already. My husband and I have a baby now, and I'm always vigilant. I honestly don't know what she's capable of. This woman once had the whole world at her feet. She had a platform that would have given her opportunities that the rest of us might never have, but I guess she just wanted money with the minimal amount of work involved. All she ever did was cheat and use people. It's awful. The last I heard, she became an escort, and she apparently lives in a shelter now. Clearly, there are some major mental issues at play here, but I mean, she was a terrible, selfish person long before that. So, crazy beauty queen ex-girlfriend from hell, I really hope you get the help that you need, and that neither my husband nor I ever see you again. Please,